Welcome! Today I'm not reading tarot at the moment. I do have, as usual, a cat warming my back on the sofa here. Let's see if I can show you. Let's see. Well, that's his back end. How do we do this? Hi, Spasmo. Good boy. So, sort of as a public service announcement, I'd like to share something that just happened in the last couple of days, and specifically this morning. I had been just getting this brief whiff of natural gas smell in the house when I stood directly over the furnace and water heater. Not all the time though, just like once or a day or something like that. And I didn't really understand it. As a super sensitive spoonie, I have been told many times by different professionals that I'm imagining things that I'm smelling or experiencing, and after a while you just sort of learn to trust yourself because no, I wasn't imagining those things. They just weren't strong enough for anyone else to pick up on yet. So I knew I was smelling this, but you know, it was just brief. No one else was able to smell it yet, and I thought, well, you know, maybe somebody, you know, carried something through the house that runs on gasoline, like a, you know, clipper for the backyard or something like that. And then, and I was getting migraines. So this was just 2-3 days ago that this started happening, and it was just once or twice a day. And then I started getting migraines. And there was a time when I got migraines about once a month, twice a month, and that was terrible. I didn't even know what they were, and it's been quite a while since I've had migraines, more than once every 6 months maybe. So the fact that I got 2 migraines in 2 days was really worrying, and I started to think, well, maybe there's really, you know, something going on. So I started opening windows and I would feel immediately better. And I thought, this is not good. And so I started saying, well, when do I smell it? Where do I smell it? You know, nobody else was still smelling it yet. And then I realized that I only had this smell happening when somebody was using hot water. So my housemate would go take a hot shower. I would smell that smell for 5 minutes. By the time he came back out into the rest of the house and I said, oh my gosh, I smelled gas again, it would be gone. And so finally last night, we started experimenting because we have a fairly new furnace, and a couple of years ago, when it was still very new, the pipe for the vent for the exhaust got blocked, and so I was smelling something similar at that time, and all that had to happen was they drained like this much water out of the vent and sort of re-angled the vent so that it was harder for water to get in there, and, you know, problem solved. So I thought probably it's just, you know, something like that again, no biggie. But eventually we realized that it was happening when the hot water turned on, when the gas water heater turned on. And so at that point, we called the natural gas company for our area, and they were closed. And I thought, well, you know, whatever, we'll just leave a window open, no big deal. It's a big deal. It's a really freaking big deal. And so first thing this morning, I'm the one who's at home in the house, so I'm the one that, you know, has the appointments with utility people and whatnot when it comes to having an old house that needs a lot of work and frequently has this sort of like random breakdowns of key things. Or there was the time that the cats broke the window. But, you know, anyway, so I called the non-emergency natural gas hotline first thing this morning. They took my name, they took my address, they asked if my window was open, and they immediately transferred me to their in-house emergency services. And within 15 minutes, there was a technician at my door, which really shocked me. I honestly didn't think it was a big deal because I wasn't smelling the gas constantly. I was only smelling it in this little 5-foot square area of the house, all these things. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. The house could have exploded because that gas was leaking right next to the furnace, which was also gas. So there were flames and gas leakage happening in our house. And there was enough gas that I was smelling it upstairs. This is the main floor upstairs, when the actual water heater is in the basement. So within 15 minutes, the emergency technician was out here. He was able to locate the primary leak, which we had gone online last night after we realized it was the water heater, and said, well, what is it likely to be? Can we fix it? How can we save money? Is it a big deal? When it comes to gas, just make the call. Just call the experts, because I don't care how much money you need to save. I don't care if you're very handy. If you don't know what you're doing and you don't know exactly what the problem is, if you don't have the right gas detector, you're playing with your life. And you're not just playing with your life, you're playing with the lives of everyone in your neighborhood. Because if there had been enough gas in our house for it to light up, probably the house would have burned down. And if our neighbors are close enough, that could catch their houses on fire. We have 4 cats. Would we have known there was a problem and been able to save our 4 cats? I was getting migraines and basically falling asleep on the sofa once or twice a day and going, what's up with this? I don't nap like this normally. And now I know what was up with that. And that's pretty freaky. That's really scary. So if it had been any worse of a leak, probably it already would have cost my life and the lives of the cats who sleep here on the sofa with me all day. So I'm fine. The cats are fine. The problem was solved in 20 minutes or less. But take that stuff seriously. There are, a few things about a home that you don't wait around on and that you don't try and fix yourself. And gas is one of them. So what it turned out in our case is that there's a valve where the gas line goes into the hot water heater, and the gas only reaches that valve when the hot water heater turns on to heat the water. So the only time the gas was leaking out of that valve was exactly what we thought eventually, when hot water was being used in the house. And it turns out we were really lucky. That valve part, it's this little tiny part, it's like this big, was stripped. It was old, it was just stripped. And the technician actually had a replacement part in his van. He was able to pull that, turn off all the gas, check everything, and find out with his meter and with his special equipment what was wrong and where the leak was, and replace that one part and seal everything back up. And the other thing that we had actually found the night before was that the exhaust pipe that comes out of the top of the water heater has to go at an angle. It's just like a wood stove in that sense. You have to have that going up to have it go out and not to backflow back into the house. So even if there's a place where it's under a floor like we have in our basement, where it's running along before it can get outside, it still has to be running along at enough of an angle to be pushing itself uphill and up and out. And so that had actually somehow, somewhere fallen just about an inch, enough that it was exactly level. And so there was also some exhaust probably leaking out when the water heater was on and in use, and so those fumes were going out. Well, that's carbon monoxide. The exhaust when your gas water heater or your gas furnace are in use, that's carbon monoxide that's coming out of those. So if you don't have that uphill flow, if there's a leak in those pipes, if there's a blockage, like when we had a little bit of water in one of the pipes, that's carbon monoxide, and that stuff kills, and you don't usually smell it. We were not smelling it. I think that probably contributed also to my migraines, to me passing out asleep on the sofa a couple of times. Not cool. So we had discovered that from what we found online, and had literally just taken some heat-safe tape and pulled it up an inch and attached it to something a little higher up in that part of the utility closet. And the guy actually, when he saw it, said, "That's perfect, great," and left that piece alone. But I'm glad that he checked that out, because what I know now, I would not have wanted to leave that to chance or fix it ourselves without having an expert talk it through with us or look at it or something. So having looked at the whole system, the whole apparatus, he even actually double checked that the furnace, heater, gas furnace was not involved, and gave that a clean bill of health. Half an hour, and it saved our lives, and it saved our home, and it saved our cats. And now I feel safer. I'm assuming that, how that has probably been affecting my health for the last 2 days will also be improved. And yeah, just a little bit of experience of management of a home. Just personally, as a side note, one of the reasons that I want a little studio in the backyard that is more or less off-grid is this sort of thing. My parents actually have a gas fireplace, and I can't be in the house for when it gets turned off and for an hour after it's turned off. And in fact, if it's been on for a while, I have to go stand outside for a little bit. No one else in the house is getting a headache. No one else is being affected. No one else smells anything. But I end up with a migraine or a major headache just from the bits of exhaust that are within reason, according to the legal, safety guidelines, that are coming into the house, and the way that the air is being used to fuel that from the house. It's not okay for me. It's not safe. And, I'm kind of a canary in the coal mine. So if it's hurting me that much, even if you don't know that it's hurting you, it is. It's just not stopping you from being productive still. But how much healthier would you be if you didn't have those things affecting you at all? Because it's cumulative. They build up. So in my case, it takes this much, and my system gets overwhelmed. But in your case, it might take, 3 of those things that are that much. And why let there be even one? If you know about it, that's one less thing that's going to be hurting your body and hurting your health. And so I want a space, as much as this is a great home that's been provided here, I want a space that does not have propane, that does not have natural gas, that there's an option for there to not be electricity at times. And that doesn't have a lot of off-gassing going on from the materials it's even built with, or from the furniture that's inside of it, because I would like a space where I'm not being negatively affected by modern conveniences of a house. And you can't get that in a house or an apartment, because all houses and apartments have all of these utilities and supplies. We also have a shower stall in one of the bathrooms that, when it was installed in the 60s, probably when the house was built, they did not put a P-trap or an S-curve in the drain for that shower. So the shower drain is a straight shot from the opening in the bottom of our shower down to the septic system. And what that means is that sewer gases from our septic tank come straight up. There's nothing stopping them. An S-curve and a P-curve, they have water in them, and that serves as a barrier to air, to bad gases coming up from that system, from the sewer lines if you're on sewer, from a septic system if you're on septic, into the house. And those are also deadly gases. And we didn't realize this for the first couple of years that we were, living in this house. It was just, after a while, there was just kind of this weird, bad, kind of garlicky, rotten smell in the bathroom all the time. And so we'd scrub the toilet more often, because that's what we thought. And there's a cat box in there. No, it was sewer gases coming into the house. And so now we have to keep a plug on that shower drain on the top of it all the time, unless we're running water actively in that shower enough to be a water barrier in that drain to the septic line. And eventually, you know, that will come up high enough on the priority list that will fix the plumbing. But you know, what if there wasn't any plumbing? I love showers, don't get me wrong. I love running water in my kitchen sink and I love showers, but I'd like a retreat space that cannot have these kind of issues, just to see what impact they are actually having on my overall health. So anyway, it's been a really exciting morning. That the natural gas emergency guy was literally here 15 minutes after I placed that call. 45 minutes later, he was done and gone. I know so much more about how to be safe with natural gas in my home now. And there are a few basic household safety things that up until this point, it was just, you know, extra money that why bother, we're fine. And now those are at the top of the list of things that this house must have in order for us to live here, for anyone to live here. And I get it now. And I'm kind of sad that I had to have the personal experience to learn that lesson, but it's learned. So if you smell that gas, open windows and make that phone call. You know, open windows, turn off anything that operates on gas. So if you have a gas stove, if you have a gas furnace, if you have a gas water heater, if you have a gas fireplace, make sure none of those things are running. Don't burn any candles. Don't light a cigarette. Open some windows so there can be fresh air moving through, and make the emergency phone call, because that truly is life and death. Even if you don't die and nothing bad actually occurs, that's the good news. That's, you got to it in time and you were really lucky. Let's not wait until something explodes or somebody doesn't wake up from a nap. So I'm not sharing this because I need sympathy. I don't. Everything turned out really well. We were incredibly lucky. We don't have to replace the water heater. You know, nothing blew up. Everybody's okay. I'm sharing it because I want you to be incredibly lucky too. In fact, I want you to not need the luck. I want you to be prepared and prevent this from happening in your home. And as with so many of my life experiences, this is part of me turning it into an opportunity and finding that silver lining is that I can share and help somebody else have a better life, or an easier life, or at least not explode their house. So with that, I hope you're having a good middle of the week and a good day, and that you're not having quite as much excitement as I've been having lately. Yeah, be well. I'll talk with you again soon.